Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Feiner.
In our top story, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address at the United Nations General Assembly was well received and lauded by many as powerful. More than 30 other world leaders requested meetings with the Israeli premier while he was in New York. Netanyahu's talks with U.S. President Donald Trump on the sidelines of the conference focused on efforts to renew peace talks with the Palestinians, and other critical topics included sanctions that Washington slapped on Iran for its sponsorship of international terrorism and strategies to counter Tehran's efforts to forge a long-term presence in Syria.
Jerusalem is undertaking measures to improve security coordination with Moscow after the Syrian military shot down a Russian plane following an Israeli mission in the area. The IDF policy of preventing Iranian entrenchment and weapons transfers to Hezbollah terrorists, as well as its other allies in the region, will nevertheless remain uncompromised. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed regret over the incident during a telephone conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The premier said that the root of the problem is Tehran's use of Syrian territory to attack the Jewish state, which has the right to defend itself. Israel's top Air Force commander was also sent to the Kremlin to preserve cooperation between the two countries.
In related news, both Jerusalem and Washington are strongly opposed to Moscow's sudden decision to supply the S-300 anti-missile system to Syria. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu cautioned against the move, stressing that providing advanced weapons to irresponsible actors will magnify dangers in the region. He reiterated that Israel will continue to defend itself and its interests. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton urged the Kremlin to reconsider the deployment, which he branded a major mistake that would significantly escalate tensions. Another unnamed senior American official was cited as saying that the addition of more anti-aircraft missiles in the war-torn country will not end the unprofessional and indiscriminate firing by the Syrian army, and moreover, introduction of the Russian system could endanger U.S. Air Force jets operating against the Islamic State in the area.
Iran is sticking to its claims that the U.S. and Israel were involved in the September 22nd attack on a military parade in the city of Avaz. The deputy head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards warned the Democratic allies to expect devastating retaliation from Tehran, despite competing claims of responsibility for the mass shooting from the Islamic State and an Arab separatist group. 29 people were killed during the event, which was held to commemorate the Islamic Republic's 8-year war with Iraq during the 1980s. Meanwhile, President Hassan Rouhani defiantly declared that his nation will never give up its missile arsenal and that U.S. objections to the program only heightens its value. The statements come in the wake of Iranian saber rattling near the strategic Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf, where yet another joint military drill was conducted by the Revolutionary Guards and the Army.
Hezbollah terror boss Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah boasted that his Shiite militia has managed to obtain precision rockets despite Israeli airstrikes to sever the supply route from Iran. Hezbollah was formed in the early 1980s with the help of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, and it has been a key ally of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in the 7-year civil war. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu warned that the terror faction will be dealt a crushing blow of unimaginable proportions if it ever again confronts the Jewish state. The two sides last fought a brief war on Lebanese soil in 2006.
Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas claimed that he's finally ready to resume negotiations with Israel as long as the process is brokered by the International Quartet, European or Arab countries. He made the statements in Paris after meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron. Even though Washington was excluded as a potential mediator, the PA boss said that he expected Macron to pass on Ramallah's new stance to U.S. President Donald Trump during their meeting on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. The White House has taken a number of actions that have infuriated the Palestinians, including the recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Since that time, Palestinian leaders have boycotted the Washington peace efforts, being led by Jared Kushner, Trump's senior advisor and son-in-law. The last round of Palestinian-Israeli peace talks collapsed in 2014.
Since the most recent wave of Palestinian terrorism was launched against Israeli civilians 2 years ago, 69 innocent people have been killed and more than 1,000 others have been injured in 450 separate terrorist attacks. These include 202 shootings, 195 stabbings, and 68 car rammings. At least 730 rockets have been fired at Israel from the Gaza Strip, including 350 this past July and August. The new form of terrorist arson attacks using incendiary kites and other airborne materials sent from Gaza into southern Israeli communities has sparked nearly 1,400 fires that have wreaked major economic and environmental damage.
The Palestinian Authority reportedly made its first down payment for the killing of U.S.-Israeli citizen Ari Fold within hours of the September 16th murder. According to Israeli media, the family of terrorist Khalil Yusuf Ali Jabbarin was given $3,350 as an initial deposit. The Jabbarin family will continue to receive about $400 a month for the foreseeable future. The PA is estimated to have given at least $330 million to terrorists and their relatives over just the past 2 years under its pay-to-slay policy. Both Israel and the U.S. recently passed laws to cut funding to Ramallah until it ends its terrorist incentive program. Fold was a 45-year-old married father of 4 and a prominent pro-Israel activist. Thousands of family, friends, and leaders across the political spectrum attended his funeral and mourned his death.
5 Arab suspects were arrested for disrupting visits by religious Jews to the Temple Mount. Jerusalem police identified the suspects as members of the Al-Aqsa Youth Organization, which routinely harasses non-Muslim worshippers. The Islamic group is believed to be linked to Hamas. It was outlawed in August 2011 and deemed to be a terrorist group by Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman. Israeli security forces also arrested 10 members of an Arab cell which orchestrated violent clashes in the area last month. The Temple Mount is the holiest site in Judaism, but the status quo arrangement does not permit either Jews or Christians to pray there.
Palestinian employees of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, known as UNRWA, held a mass protest against the prospective loss of their jobs and services following the recent halt of U.S. financial support. 13,000 people are currently employed by the UN agency. The demonstrators wore orange jumpsuits and conducted a mock hanging to dramatize their position as they marched to UN headquarters in Gaza City. Washington slashed $200 million in aid to UNRWA as a means to encourage organizational reform and pressure the Palestinians to revive peace talks with Israel.
Pope Francis led silent prayers for the tens of thousands of Jews who died in the Vilnius ghetto on the 75th anniversary of its liquidation by the Nazis. The pontiff also issued an appeal for vigilance against even the slightest whiff of resurgent anti-Semitism, and he advocated that the horrors of the Holocaust be taught to new generations. More than 200,000 Lithuanian Jews were murdered by the Third Reich and its local collaborators. Today, the country's Jewish community numbers only around 3,000 souls. Vanya Brankowskaya, who is one of the ghetto's few survivors, was present during the ceremony. The 96-year-old, who lost her entire family during World War II, said she believed the Pope's prayer was a sign of his moral support for survivors against Holocaust deniers.
A University of Michigan professor is facing widespread condemnation for using his support of the BDS movement as justification to deny a letter of recommendation for a student hoping to study in Israel. John Cheney Lippold sent an email to Abigail Inber informing her that his previous offer of a referral was withdrawn because he'd overlooked the location of the program she wanted to attend. The professor of American culture then expressed his commitment to the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement and told her that he would still provide the letter if she chose a different country. The Anti-Defamation League and other organizations condemned the professor's action. The university issued a statement distancing itself from the professor's position and maintained that it consistently opposes such activity. Dozens of states, including Michigan, have passed legislation against the BDS hate campaign. A new study recently revealed a strong correlation between faculty's support of boycotts against Israel and a sharp rise in anti-Semitism at the same institutions.
And now to a very different kind of archaeological story. 7 U.S. military veterans recently completed a highly unusual mission in Israel that was especially designed to help them combat post-traumatic stress disorder. The group participated in an extremely innovative excavation intended to help them lay their grief to rest through the rediscovery of the past. Organizers said being part of a cohesive team again, reminiscent of their military service, helped the vets battle depression and isolation brought on by physical and emotional injuries. Other therapeutic aspects included introduction to Israeli culture, which embraces its military as family, since almost all citizens perform national service. The program also involved visits to the Christian sites in Jerusalem and Nazareth, aimed at replacing negative associations of the Middle East with positive experiences. The two-week dig was based in the Beit She'arim National Park in the Galilee. Tens of thousands of Jews gathered at the Western Wall in the Old City of Jerusalem for the Birkat HaKohanim priestly blessing during the festival of Sukkot. The prayers are also performed during the springtime holidays of Passover and Shavuot. The ceremony originates from the commandment that the Israelites must come up to the temple in Jerusalem during these three pilgrimage festivals. The priestly blessing says, "May God bless you and keep you. May His glory shine upon you, and may He give you peace." We at Israel Now News extend that same blessing to you and all of our viewers.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful sunny day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is member of Knesset, Dr. Nachman Shai. He's a member of the Zionist Union Party. Dr. Nachman Shai, thank you for being on the show.
You're most welcome, Josh.
Tell our viewers a little about what is the Zionist Union Party?
Well, the Zionist Union Party is composed of two parties. One is the good old Labour, and the new one is Hatnu'ah, led by Tzipi Livni. It was composed before the last election, and in the election to the 19th Knesset, we drew 24 Knesset seats, which is the second largest party in the parliament now. And we are proudly lead the opposition, hoping one day it will turn the other way around and will lead the country.
Now, I mean, you're sitting in the opposition, you're the head of the opposition, the Zionist Union Party. Why did you choose not to join the government?
It was a mistake, at the bottom line, I could say, but at the time, it seems like Netanyahu was not ready to go enough towards our demands or requirements or conditions, and we decided to stay in the opposition and to fight for the principles that we believe in. It's two nation states for two people, and I would say reshaping the Israeli society towards more of a social democrat model.
You sit also on the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus. You've been
yes.
a member since you've become a member of the Knesset. Why is it important for you to reach out to Christians who love Israel?
I accept every hand extended to me, and I admire the Christians who support Israel and believe in Israel's future and do everything to make sure that Israel will not be hurt either by our enemies from the Middle East, or those who try to delegitimize the state of Israel in the world arena. And a lot of credit should go to Christians all around the world that love Israel, believe in Israel, support Israel, and keep Israel running.
There are members of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus from 6 different parties, left to right, religious to secular. Why do you think this is such a uniting issue, that working with Christians and developing support for Israel unites all the parties, when, as you know from opposition, there's a lot of fights on all the other issues?
Yeah, well, you can be proud that you were able to put together such a coalition made of both parties from the coalition and opposition, because, as I said before, the idea of overall or global support to Israel is welcomed by all of us, and that's why we came together and we established a caucus, very powerful one, in the Knesset that can accept this kind of support and also look towards the Christians in the world, thank them, and build relations not only for this generation but for many generations to come.
You're an expert also on working with Jewish communities in the diaspora. Do you see that, just like in the Knesset, that Jewish communities and organizations are starting to work with Christians as well?
Depends when and where. I know that some of the issue of mainly the evangelists in the United States is controversial within the Jewish community. I'm not, I don't intend to get into that. That comes from, I think, it's from a different background, on the much more on the American background. My perspective is what's good for Israel, or what's best for Israel. And what I count is names and numbers of people that are ready to keep Israel alive, running, strong, and they do everything for that. And so even the evangelists are included, of course, in this, and many other Christian communities from wherever they are.
We see that in the American system, for example, the Republicans support Israel because of the evangelical base, and the Democrats support Israel because of their Jewish base. But now we see a progressive movement that's leaning away from supporting Israel. Do you think this will damage the bipartisanship of the political structure?
There are many trends within the Jewish community in America. Some of them really concern us. Some of them are getting too far from, I would say, the heart of the support to Israel. There are many questions. I can answer those questions. We can answer those questions. Yet we believe that everyone should stay under the same tent. And we're doing ourselves. Even those circles, Jewish circles that are very controversial of Israel, I'm ready to accept them as long as they are part of a national consensus for the very existence of the state of Israel. But again, this is a different ball game between us and the Jewish community in America. We have to do, as the state of Israel, everything we can to preserve Jews in America and elsewhere. All together in the world, there are maybe 18 million Jews. Everyone counts. These communities are diminishing because of intermarriage and many other reasons. And so our major goal as the state of Israel is not only to accept their support, but to do everything in order to keep the Jewish world alive and to make sure the Jews all around the world will stick to their Judaism and remain Jews.
One of the biggest successes in faith-based diplomacy was the moving of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. You're from a center-left party. How did you see that move? I
am very much for that. And I'm very thankful to the President Trump, and his staff, and of course Republicans and Democrats all around America, and mainly the evangelists that had such a major role in this decision, historic decision. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. It's time to recognize that. There's no doubt about it, no question marks. This is it. That's what you see when you look there over my back. This is Jerusalem, the one and only. It opens to all religions. Everyone can worship in Jerusalem. Christians, Muslims, any religious. But at the end of the day, it is under Israeli government, and it will remain so forever.
Dr. Shai, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for a viewing audience?
First of all, come to Israel. That's the best. I know once in a while there are big gatherings in Israel, marching in the streets, singing, dancing. That helps a lot. But not all of you together. I mean, there's a kind of certain number that we can accommodate at the same time. But keep your love to Israel. And we appreciate it very much. We hope that we can build together a better world, a world that everyone will find her place and his place in this world. Do your best to promote the same values that we all believe in, and with God, somewhere in heaven, I hope that we will share a common future. So thank you very much for your love, support to Israel. We love you as well.
Thank you, member of Knesset Shai, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Ayasod.
Hello and welcome to the Return to Zion with Keren HaYesod. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Today, Ukrainian Jews are in great danger as they live in war-torn Ukraine. Help us fulfill biblical prophecy by bringing our brothers and sisters back home to safety. God bless you from Jerusalem.
I will even gather you from the peoples and assemble you out of the countries where ye have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel. Ezekiel 11:17. In eastern Ukraine, over the past 2.5 years, a brutal and cruel war has been raging. A savage war without clearly defined front lines. Against this backdrop, the Jews of eastern Ukraine have been in peril. The donors of Keren HaYesod from around the world have heeded the call and have come to their rescue. Our supporters realize that the window of opportunity to rescue these Jews may slam shut. Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. Isaiah 49:18.
We are here to support, all of us, the Jewish people who return to their homeland, to support each other.
These Jews must be extracted from burning towns, from raging battles, and from the chaos of eastern Ukraine, and brought back to their ancient homeland.
Я решила приехать в Израиль, потому что я последние полгода почувствовала свои еврейские корни и поняла, что я не могу больше находиться в своей стране, и я должна вернуться на свою историческую родину.
Корни говорят сами о себе, было рвение, плюс хотелось, чтобы сын узнал.
Воссоединение с семьей, наша семья здесь сейчас, папа, мама, сестра.
Большое волнение, но как-то у меня сразу, как мы прилетели, какое-то ощущение было правильности нашего выбора.
Для будущего нашего ребенка в первую очередь.
Keren HaYesod's friends around the world have been stepping forward to enable this life-saving effort to continue. Many thousands have already been rescued, yet many thousands still remain in eastern Ukraine. They must be brought out now. Through Keren HaYesod and our partner, the Jewish Agency, our dreams, our prayers, and our hopes are coming together in fulfillment of the biblical prophecy that foresaw the return of the Jewish people to their ancestral homeland. Behold, I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the uttermost parts of the earth. A great company shall they return hither. Jeremiah 31:7. The situation is highly unpredictable, and we must not miss this chance to help. We cannot let them down. All possible resources must be mobilized in this effort. You too can play your part in this crucial mission as Keren HaYesod provides these Jews in distress with new lives in Israel. Join us. We must not forsake them in their time of need.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
The opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem on May 14th was widely criticized in the U.S. media and the world media as being a radical departure for long-standing American policy toward Israel and the Middle East. It was not. The departure from American policy was the 70 years in which the United States did not recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. For hundreds of years before 1948, America's attitude toward this land was that in order to be a great nation, America, in order for Americans to be good Christians and good citizens, they had to support the recreation of a Jewish state in this country, and the Jewish state with only one individual capital, the capital city of Jerusalem. That was the case in the early part of the 19th century, when Americans such as Harriet Livermore, Sarah Haight, John Turner Barclay came to Jerusalem, and they established colonies which had one purpose, and that was to teach the Jews how to regain their sovereignty in the land of Israel. And they made the colonies here for the purpose that Jerusalem would be the capital of that future state. America's first consul general in Jerusalem, Warder Cresson of Philadelphia, came to the city, in the Old City, in 1844. He immediately set up the American eagle over his doorway and said that the eagle's wing would protect the Jewish people and help ingather them to Israel and Jerusalem to recreate a Jewish state. Warder Cresson, who later converted to Judaism and became a leader of the Sephardic community here, buried on the Mount of Olives, was a symbol of America's commitment to Jerusalem as the capital of a reborn Jewish state. That same idea informed the policies of Abraham Lincoln, whose last words on earth was his wish to visit Jerusalem. He said it twice on the way to Ford's Theater. The deep and yearning of Woodrow Wilson and, of course, Harry Truman to see Israel recreated with Jerusalem as its capital. The opening of that embassy on May 14th was not a departure. The opening of the embassy on May 14th was an historic return.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan Elrom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.